Welcome to Joy for the Journey, the podcast where we explore the winding paths of purpose, faith, and joy. I'm your host, Joy, and I'm thrilled to embark on this transformative journey with you. Are you a woman seeking more than just existence and a soul yearning for fulfillment, purpose, and unwavering joy? Well, you're not alone. In this sacred space, we'll navigate the highs and lows, the doubts and triumphs, and the divine whispers guiding us toward our true calling. Through candid conversations, inspiring stories, and practical insights, Joy for the Journey is your compass, your confidant, and your catalyst for embracing the abundant life God intends for you. So if you're ready to reclaim your joy, renew your hope, and rediscover the woman God created you to be, join me on this adventure. Let's walk together step by step towards a life filled with purpose, passion, and unbridled joy. This is Joy for the Journey. Welcome aboard. Hey, it's Joy Jackson of Speaking of Joy, and welcome to Joy for the Journey. I am so excited that you're here with me, and it seems like it's been a while since we've gotten together. Really only been about 2 weeks, but it seems like forever. And I'm so glad that you have listened to this podcast, that you have caught up on the podcast that I've recorded thus far, and that you're finding joy along the journey. I don't take it lightly, as I say all the time, that you're spending this time with me. So I'm so grateful for you. I'm grateful for everyone who's liked, everyone who shared, everyone who's been on this journey with me. And I got to tell you, the last couple of weeks, baby, it's been a journey. I mean, really been a journey. And if you know anything about what's going on with the weather that we really can't explain here in Houston, it has been some crazy weather. I'm talking stuff I've never seen before. Now, I've grown up with hurricanes, grown up with strong winds. I even went to school in Nashville where it was tornadoes all around, never been in one. But 2 weeks ago, literally today, 2 weeks ago to today, there was a tornado that hit my area. And I've got a fence down, I've got many shingles gone, I've got a shed that's gone, I've got a shutter that flew off into a neighbor's yard to prove, first and foremost, the mighty hand of God. Because even through all of that, we were spared. There are people who lost their homes, there are people who lost a lot more, even some lives were lost. And so I'm so grateful, first and foremost, for safety and for God's hedge of protection. But I got to tell you, it was a struggle. I'm talking real life struggle. And it was a struggle because for 5 days we were without power. Lights flickered that Thursday, and we didn't get power restored until Monday. Fourth largest city in the country, and we were without power. I mean, 1 million people were without power. Second time in my life that involuntarily we've been without power. Another time was the freeze a few years ago, and I remember crying and praying then, like, Lord, how could you let this happen? And so here we are, years later, I'm praying the same prayer. Like, Lord, how could you let this happen? Lord, why is this happening? Lord, what's really going on? And I prayed and I cried and I cried and I prayed and I kept it together for my kids. And I'm really excited about the fact that I was able to keep it together because Stephen actually commented and applauded me for my level of togetherness, because I am quick to share my emotions, and sometimes I have to wait until the right time to share my emotions because it's not always the right time every time I do it. So he complimented me on my sharing my emotions, which I thought was really great because I'm like, Lord, I'm just out here trying to keep it together for my kids and for my family. But the reason I'm sharing that with you is because I had a moment where I was very angry with God. Now, this is my true story. It may sound crazy to you, but I'm going to be honest with you about where I was and actually what I learned, which is why this episode is called Impatiently Waiting on God. Because as much as I talk about patience and as much as I talk about patience in the season that you're in and knowing that God's going to bring you through it, that wasn't what I was feeling 2 weeks ago. I'll be honest with you. That's not what I was feeling. I was so very upset. So just listen to this and follow along and you'll see kind of what happened here. So the truth is, I told you I was without power. We were without power. And by the grace of God, the first night we were able to make it through. It was dark. Thank God for my mama and HSN who bought these lanterns off of HSN that kept the lights lit. Like we looked like we had lights in our house. So thank God for the late night purchases of HSN. But then the next day I was like, okay, God, we can't do this. And Stephen was like, no, we can't stay. I don't feel comfortable. It's going to get hot. So we went out to my sister-in-law's house. So first thing I want to say is, although I didn't have power, I had to change my perspective because I did have power. I just didn't have power in my house. But I was in a home that had power. I was in a home that had lights. I was in a home that had air. I was in a home that had TV. I was able to work. So it was all about perspective in that moment. But what I really struggled with was every time someone would text and say, hey, are your lights on? Hey, are your lights on? Hey, are your lights on? And I got so sick of that question because my lights weren't on. Hey, are your lights on? Hey, just checking on you. Hey, are you doing all right? How's your family? Are your lights on? Hope we get lights soon. I kept getting those text messages, even to the degree that I started to get text messages that said, hey, our lights are on. Hey, our lights are on. Are your lights on? Hey, we got lights. Hey, we still don't have lights. So getting those text messages began to frustrate me. And here's why. Because I started to see other people around me get their lights turned on, and their lights were being turned on. So they were returning back to normal, getting back to their regular life. Although they had some inconveniences or whatever, they weren't waiting anymore for their lights to be turned on because their lights came on. And I remember the Sunday after all of this happened, Stephen and I were getting ready for church, and I was just so overwhelmingly sad. And I was like, why am I sad? And I had been holding in these tears. Have you ever been in that moment like where you just have been holding in your tears so much that you're like, if I literally clip a toenail or cut my finger, I'm just going to start bawling out of control. And that's where I was. So I was in the bathroom. I was praying. I was crying. I was getting ready. Walked into the room and I sat on the bed and Stephen was like, what's wrong? And I could not stop crying. I could not control my emotions. And it was sadness. It was grief. It was anger. It was frustration. It was impatience. But what it was more than anything was disappointment. Now, I know that sounds crazy because I couldn't do anything about my lights. Right? I mean, literally, we were in the area where the towers fail, so I couldn't do anything about it. But I was disappointed. And the reason I was disappointed is because I was like, God, everybody else's lights are being turned back on. God, you're restoring their power. And God, I've been praying for you to restore our power. God, I've been praying for our lights to be turned back on. What is it about what we have going on that you won't answer my prayer? And then it hit me. That's been my question to God for years. God, I've been praying for some stuff. God, I've been believing for some stuff. God, I've been asking for some stuff. And I see you doing it for everyone else. Why won't you do it for me? And I had to sit with that because that was my disappointment. And it's not because I'm not happy for other people. It's not because I'm not applauding other people. It's because I'm like, God, when will it be my turn? God, I know what you've shown me about my business. When will it be my turn? I know what you've shown me about our finances. When will it be my turn? I know what you've shown me about my marriage. When will it be my turn? I know what you've shown me about my future. When will it be my turn? And to add insult to injury, other people around me were celebrating because things were happening for them. And I'm celebrating with them because I understand the desire. Even something as simple, I understand what it's like to not have your lights on. And I was in a home where I was comfortable, but I had some friends and family members who didn't have that. So they were not even in a home where they were comfortable. They had to tough it out. So surely I should be excited that their lights are on. And I was, but I was disappointed that it wasn't me. I know people will tell you you shouldn't live like that. I know people will call it jealousy and envy. I don't call it any of that. I call it being real and true to the emotions that I feel. And I am so grateful and so excited every time I see God blessing someone else. You know how people say, oh yeah, I'm excited when God is blessing, because when God is blessing, that means it's in my neighborhood. Let me tell you, when it came to these lights, it was in my neighborhood. It just wasn't on my street. So what do you do when the blessing is in your neighborhood, but it's not in your path? That's where I was. So the lights were on the left side of the neighborhood, but the right side of the neighborhood, which is where we live, the lights weren't on. God, why? Why won't the lights come on? God, why won't you do what you've promised? God, why am I still waiting? Why am I still praying the same prayer I've been praying for years? God, why am I still believing in the space of season where you said you're going to do some things and I don't see anything happen? God, what am I supposed to do? And every day I got up, checking my phone to see if Centerpoint or see if one of our neighbors said we had lights. And every day I was disappointed because we didn't have lights. There have been seasons in my life, even now, that I've gotten up believing God's going to do it. This is the day. This is the day that something's going to break. This is the day that something's going to happen, and nothing happens. What do you do with that disappointment? What do you do with that level of hurt? And the truth is, I'm probably not the only one who's ever felt that way. I saw it in the lights. And just as plain as day, I was frustrated about all the things that I didn't have. I don't have lights. My refrigerator stuff is going to go bad. I'm just so over this. Damage is bad. Like, God, it's just not getting any better. And then I had to realize, but Joy, it could be worse. And not from a comparative place, but the fact that you're not in a home that you don't have the things you need. The fact that your children are uncomfortable. The fact that your children got to spend more time with their aunt that they may not have had a chance to spend any other time. So immediately I had to start to say, okay, well, this isn't happened, but this has. So this hasn't happened, but I do see God's hand. This has not happened, meaning the lights or the timing hasn't caught up, but God is still a provider. God still keeps, God still protects, God still blesses. And so for 2 weeks, I had to sit with that. For 2 weeks, I didn't have anything to say. For 2 weeks, I didn't have anything to give. I literally did not sit into my office until yesterday. Primarily because I just needed to take a breath and a breather, because I have gotten so consumed with doing the things that I felt that I needed to do to get to the place that God wants me to be. And he reminded me, listen, I control all things. I perfect the things that concern you. And it doesn't matter how many times you record, how many emails you send, how many posts you make, how many people you talk to. It is at my appointed time that I will connect you in the way you need to be connected. So I'm going to challenge you, and I'm going to tell you right now, if you're in a season of waiting on God and you're like, when is it going to be my time? The truth is, it's only going to be your time when God says it's your time. That's it. There's nothing else we can do. And we have to learn how to wait on God. I mean, really wait, not wait and complain, not wait and run to the window to see what's happening, not wait and check our phone, but truly just wait. And here's the blessing. I was talking to a former client who's turned into a friend of mine, who's turned into someone that when I talk to her, it just lifts my spirits. I was talking to her literally this morning, and it's Wednesday. So you'll hear this tomorrow, which is Thursday, but I was talking to her Wednesday on the way into my part-time job. And I was talking to her, and I was just sharing with her the revelation I had about the lights, right? The revelation I had about what it meant. And here's what she said that blessed me, and I'm sharing it with you. She said, a lot of times we're waiting for the outward manifestation that God is working on our behalf, when the truth is God is always working on our behalf. There is never a time in our life that anything is on accident, anything is on coincidence, anything is on happenstance. Literally, God is always working on our behalf. And while we were talking, the first thing that came to mind is when you plant something. When you plant something, you got to remember that the sprout and the bud is the last step in the growth of whatever it is you planted. The first thing that happens when you plant is that it has to take root. All of that happens underground, beneath the soil. That's a part that you never see, but it's absolutely necessary in the growth process. I mean, just looking at some different types of fruit and vegetables, it can take 1 to 2 weeks for chilies, beans, sunflowers, and pumpkins to take root. Some seeds can take 2 to 4 weeks, like mango and parsley. Others, like avocados, can take 2 months. And then if we're looking at some other things, I'm talking if we're starting from scratch, even grass can take 7 to 21 days before we start to see the growth. So what that tells me is, although I don't see it on the outside, God is working underneath the soil. And he's working in such a way that I gain roots. Because we have some big trees in front of our yard. And the blessing is when that tornado came through, and it literally came like down our street. When the tornado came, our trees blew and some branches fell off. But the tree did not break, because the roots are so deep. I mean, I'm talking, the roots at our trees are so deep that we've got the little hump where it's starting to grow, and it's growing like all through the grass. So we see it. And so we have to watch our step because the stump has actually started to take root as well. So that's how rooted our trees are. And so what God showed me when I was talking to her today was, see, you're waiting on the bloom. I'm more concerned about the root. because where I'm taking you, there are going to be some things that happen in your life where you're going to have to be planted. And you're going to have to be like that tree planted by the rivers of water that'll bring forth its fruit in due season. Your leaves will not wither, and whatsoever you do shall prosper. But in order for that to happen, you got to have the root. You got to know who you are, Joy. You got to know what you stand on. You got to know who I've called you to be. You got to know what I've called you to do. You got to know that I'm the only one that can do it for you. And if you get ahead of it and you sprout before you're ready, the minute the wind blows, you're going to be blown. The minute nobody likes your likes, the minute nobody listens to your podcast, the minute that nobody calls you to book you, you're going to get shaken and you're going to not want to do this work. So I am preparing you. Daryl Coley has a song that said he's preparing me for something that I cannot handle right now. He's making me ready because he cares. He's providing me with what I need to carry out the next chapter in my life. And so I had to be reminded that you're worried about the outside and God is worried about the inside. He's pruning my heart. He's pruning my spirit. He's pruning my thoughts. He's pruning my perspective. He's pruning all of those things inside of me so that I can be the woman he's created me to be. Even with houses. Okay, not even houses. Let's talk about a shed. Y'all, we have a shed in the backyard. Shed gone. Tornado tore it down. But you know what's still standing? The slab that the shed was sitting on. So yes, all of the walls fell down, but the slab is still there. And that's what God had to remind me is I'm building a foundation, and it's a foundation that you're going to need. So while you're looking at other people's lives and seeing their moments and seeing what I'm doing for them, their process is not your process. The seeds that they're planting are not the seeds that you're planting. So stop comparing yourself. Stop looking at other people's journey and focus on the journey that I have set before you. So while everyone else's lights are being turned on, there's a reason that I'm not turning your lights on right now. There's a reason. There's a reason that I am not moving at the speed that you want me to move. There's a reason. There's a reason that your business is in the space that it's in right now. There's a reason. There's a reason that your family is where they are right now. There's a reason. And you're spending way too much time, Joy, looking through social media, through conversations with other people, through lives and experiences, looking at other people and saying, oh God, I am so happy for them, but what about me? I have a child that does that. We literally, and you may have heard this in another podcast, but we literally are trying to teach her to live in the moment. Because anytime there's something major that happens, she's like, well, I can't wait till my birthday. Girl, your birthday's in December. But everything revolves around what she wants and how she wants it to be manifest. And so if something good happens, she's like, oh, well, mommy, I can't wait till my birthday. And I'm like, well, sweetie, your two grandmothers are going to have a birthday. Your grandfather's going to have a birthday. Literally, like now. Your dad's going to have a birthday. I'm going to have a birthday. Jesus is going to have a birthday. Your friends will have birthdays. And then you'll have a birthday. But she's like, what about me? What about me? When am I going to get what I want? And I realized that I am crying to God like my 10-year-old daughter. What about me? What about me? When am I going to get what I want? When am I going to have my turn? And God is like, the same way you're disciplining Shelby and you're teaching her that she's got to wait patiently, that's what I'm teaching you. And so I had to literally repent because I've been impatiently waiting. And when I looked up the word impatient, it has two definitions that I think are super important and are like, oh my gosh, Joy, this is you. So the first one says, having or showing a tendency to be quickly irritated or provoked. That's me. Quickly irritated. I see something, I hear something, and I know that God has promised it to me, but it is not yet my time. And I'm like, oh, I don't want to talk about that. I don't want to hear it. Like, I didn't want to see any more text about lights being turned on. Like, I was quickly irritated, and it provoked me to sadness, to disappointment, to anger, to frustration, to resentment, all of those things. And then the second one is restlessly eager. And I truly believe that's where I am because I know beyond a shadow of a doubt what God has promised me. I can see it. I can touch it. It has not changed in my whole life. God has shown me what he's going to do through me, for me, and what he's going to do for others through me. He's shown me that. But I am restlessly eager meaning I can't sit still, meaning I can't hold it much longer, meaning I am just so ready to get it done and to move into that season. And truly, it's not about so that I can get the glory. It's not about any of that. It's not so that I can get money. It's not so that I can be this powerhouse. It is truly so that I can say, look what God has done. But then I realized I can't talk about God being a provider if he's never had to provide. Can't talk about being a healer if I've never been sick. I can't talk about God being a way maker if he's never had to make a way. So just a side note, ladies who listen to this, sometimes we have to go through the things in order to see God for who he really is. But I've been restlessly eager. I've been really like, God, I know it's coming. I can see it. I can see it on the horizon. It's kind of like when there's a sunrise and you first see the first break of day and you're like, okay, there's the break of day, which means the sun has to come up. That's the space I've been in. Oh, I see the break of day, God. I see what you're about to do. So I know it's got to come. But then I get so caught up in the I know it's got to come that I forget in praising God for the beauty of the sunrise. I get so caught up in the sun coming up that I forget to praise God about the beauty of the paint of the canvas that he's putting in the sky. So I've become impatient with what God is doing in my life. And I hope I'm not the only one. And if I am, just listen to it and say, bless her heart. But I have become very impatient with what God is doing in my life. And so now I'm like, God, forgive me. Forgive me. God, forgive me for becoming impatient with you. Forgive me for wanting you to speed up the timeline. Forgive me for wanting you to take me out of the oven before I'm fully cooked. And so that's been my prayer the last 2 weeks is, God, forgive me. God, I'm sorry. God, I realize that this is an issue for me and I need you to cleanse me. So literally, as we wrap this up, I want to read a part of Psalm 40 to you. It says, I waited patiently for the Lord, and he turned to me and heard my cry. He lifted me out of the slimy pit, out of the mud and mire. He set my feet on a rock and gave me a firm place to stand. He put a new song in my mouth, a hymn of praise to our God. Many will see and fear the Lord and put their trust in him. And so what I have come to realize in just this short 2 weeks is that my goal is to wait patiently for the Lord, because when I wait on God, he's heard me and he's preparing to lift me up and preparing me to establish me in the firm place that he has promised me. And so in the time being, I can honestly say he's put a new song in my mouth. And it's a hymn of praise. God, I praise you because you are great. God, I praise you because you are awesome. God, I praise you because I lack no good thing. God, I praise you because you are doing exceeding abundantly above all I can ask or think. I praise you because you are perfecting the things that concern me. I praise you because I am fearfully and wonderfully made. I praise you because you love me. I praise you because you're not allowing me to get ahead of you. I praise you because you're developing me. I mean, it can be a praise for anything. So he's put a praise in my mouth, and I hope that he's put one in your mouth as well. And then it says, many will see and fear the Lord and put their trust in him. And if you know me and you've heard me talk about speaking of joy, that is my desire. My mission, my personal mission, is to love out loud with grace and humility so that women who encounter me are better having met me and are able to fully walk in purpose and trust God more. And the only way that can be done is if I wait for God to do what he's going to do. So I challenge you to wait on God, and not to impatiently wait as I've been doing, but to truly patiently wait on God and know that he who has begun a good work in you will perform it until the day of Jesus Christ. I'll talk to you soon. Welcome to Joy for the Journey, the podcast where we explore the winding paths of purpose, faith, and joy. I'm your host, Joy, and I'm thrilled to embark on this transformative journey with you. Are you a woman seeking more than just existence and a soul yearning for fulfillment, purpose, and unwavering joy? Well, you're not alone. In this sacred space, we'll navigate the highs and lows, the doubts and triumphs, and the divine whispers guiding us toward our true calling. Through candid conversations, inspiring stories, and practical insights, Joy for the Journey is your compass, your confidant, and your catalyst for embracing the abundant life God intends for you. So if you're ready to reclaim your joy, renew your hope, and rediscover the woman God created you to be, join me on this adventure. Let's walk together step by step towards a life filled with purpose, passion, and unbridled joy. This is Joy for the Journey. Welcome aboard.